Good morning, Year 6. Welcome to your final maths lesson of the term. I've been so impressed to see how well everyone's handled all of the new content we've covered in maths this term, and so have all of your teachers and adults in the school. It's really impressive that you've been able to keep up with all of the new content and to be able to upload all of your work onto Seesaw as successfully as you have been doing. So well done to everybody. We are incredibly proud of you. So today's lesson, we are going to continue learning about ratio and proportion, but we're going to focus specifically on recipe problems. The very first thing that I'd like you to do, though, is to pause the video and answer your 6 morning arithmetic questions. So please pause the video and have a go at all 6 of these arithmetic questions. Okay, I'm going to start going through the answers, so please make sure you've completed all 6 of your arithmetic questions because the answers are coming up now. Most of these were fairly straightforward. Please just make sure you're being careful with your place value, and with your long multiplication, make sure that you're regrouping correctly. So these were your answers. Please mark them correctly. Okay, moving on then. For today, our WALT is we are learning to scale recipes using knowledge of proportion. And for your do now, what I'd like you to do is practice these 2 questions from yesterday. So I'm going to go through the steps to success just to remind you of what you need to do. Firstly, you need to establish each side of the ratio. So for example, in this one, we've got red sweets and we've got yellow sweets. Then you're going to write down what the ratio is. You're going to put your total off to the side. You're going to write down your known fact and then find the equivalents in order to be able to answer the question. So can I ask everybody please to pause the video, write the date, the WALT, and answer both do now questions, please. Question 1 and question 2. Have a go at both of those do now questions. Okay, I'm going to start going through the answers to these do now questions now. So it's important that you've written the date, the WALT, and had a go at your do now. If you haven't yet had a go at the do now, you need to pause the video and give it a crack. I know yesterday's lesson was tricky, but so many of you were really diligently following the instructions and were very successful. A bag of sweets contains red and yellow sweets. The ratio of red to yellow is 3 to 7. So I'm going to put 3 here, 7 here. Establish the ratio, express the ratio. Finally, write your total to the side, which is 10. If there are 40 sweets altogether, how many yellow sweets are there? This is the trickier bit. There are 40 sweets altogether. Where does that go? Does it go in red, yellow, or total? It goes in total, 40 sweets. So now your final step is to work out what you've multiplied everything by. I've times everything by 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, and 7 times 4 is 28. Now, what was the question actually asking me? How many yellow sweets? There were 28 yellow sweets. Well done if you said that one. Let's look at the next one then. This is similar to the one we looked at yesterday. Jack has 30 sweets. He shares his sweets with his friend. When he gives his friend a sweet, Jack has 2 for himself. So we've got Jack, we've got his friend, and we've got the total. How many sweets do they each have? Jack has 30 sweets. He shares his sweet with his friend. When he gives his friend a sweet, he has 2 for himself. Jack has 2 and his friend gets 1 each time. In total, that's 3 sweets. Now, in this example, there are 30 sweets in total. So we need to work out how to get from 3 to 30. We're timesing by 10. 1 times 10 is 10, and 2 times 10 is 20. That means in this example, Jack has 20 and his friend has 10. You should have written that out as a sentence. Well done to everyone who's practicing their ratio problems and getting more and more confident. In today's lesson, we're going to be specifically looking at recipes, and we're going to need to be able to identify 2 pieces of information in a recipe. The first piece of information you need to be able to spot is how many people your recipe can serve. That means if I followed this recipe and I cook this amount of food, it serves 2 people. That means there's enough food for 2 people to have a portion. If it serves 4, that means there's enough food for 4 people. You also need to be able to identify where the ingredients are and what those measurements are. There's a couple of different units of measurement here that you might not be very used to if you haven't used cooking before, or if you haven't done much cooking before. TBSN is actually a tablespoon and TSP is a teaspoon, so 2 different sized spoons there. We're going to get started at looking at some examples then. So this is a recipe for some fried rice with shrimp. It's enough food for 2 people, and here are my ingredients. 2 eggs, 2½ cups of steamed rice, 1 tablespoon of diced carrot, 1 medium onion diced, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of fish sauce, 120 grams of shrimps cut in half, 2 tablespoons of chopped spring onion, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So for this question, we are asking, if I used 4 eggs, how much onion would I need? All you need to do is go back to the initial ingredients and write out your ratio. Eggs to onion. In the initial ratio, we had 2 eggs in the recipe for how much onion? So 2 eggs, where's the onion gone? Here it is, 1 onion. 2 eggs to 1 onion. That's step 1. You write out what's in the original recipe. Now, you've got 2 options here for how you want to solve it. You can do it the same way as we did yesterday. So this time you're writing now 4 eggs. How do you get from 2 eggs to 4 eggs? I need to times by 2. That would make this have 2 onions. So that's the way we did it yesterday, but there's actually another way you can solve some of these, and that is spotting the relationship between those 2 ratios. 2 eggs, 1 onion. That relationship is half. You divide by 2 to get from one to the other. So if I know I need 4 eggs to get to onion, I can just divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. This works especially well if you've got very obvious doubles, halves, timesing by 3. So for some of them, you might find it quicker doing that. I'm going to change that recipe now, and that question, and I'm going to say, what if we had 8 eggs? Now, we've already said to get from 2 eggs to 1 onion, I just need to divide by 2. So here, I divide by 2. If there are 4 eggs, if there were 8 eggs, there would be 4 onions. What if there were 16 eggs? How many onions would you need? Well, then if you say 8 onions, what if there were 10 onions? How would we go backwards to the eggs? What would you need to do? Well, then if you think you need to times by 2 to get the double, 20 eggs. Okay, let's look at our next example then. If I use 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil, how much onion would I need? So go back to your original recipe for vegetable oil and onion. Vegetable oil is down here, so that's 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. 2, how much onion? 1 onion. Again, we can see that our relationship between 2 and 1 is dividing by 2. So if I've got 6 teaspoons of vegetable oil, I can just divide that by 2 to get 3 onions. Or if you prefer to, you can use the method we used yesterday, which is to say, okay, how do I get from 2 to 6? I times that by 3. So here I'm going to times by 3. Either way, you're looking for that pattern and you do the pattern the same. Whether that pattern is going from the top to the bottom or from left to right, you find the pattern and you repeat the pattern for the next one. Let's have a look at the next question then. Now we're making a cake. If I used 12 cups of flour, how much vanilla would I need? Step 1, write out your ratio from the recipe. So where's the flour? Here we go. 3 cups of flour. So I'm going to write 3F to how much vanilla? 2 tablespoons of vanilla to 2V. If I used 12 cups of flour, how much vanilla would I need? Okay. Is there a simple way of getting from 3 to 2? Remember, it's got to be either timesing or dividing here. I can't take away one. Is there an easy way for me to do 3 divided by something equals 2? Not really. So for this question, I'd use the other method. I'd say, how do I get from 3 to 12? I'm going to times by 4. How do I get from 2? What do I do to 2? I do 2 times 4. That makes 8. If you were insisting that you wanted to use this method, you'd have to use the inverse and you need to think, okay, if 3 divided by something is equal to 2, then 3 divided by 2 is equal to 1.5. So you're dividing by 1.5, and as we know, that's not particularly easy, so that method is not the best one to use. So it depends on what these numbers are, what's ever easiest, to get from the 2 original ratios or to get from the known to the new one. Okay, let's look at this next question then. If I used 1 teaspoon of vanilla, how much flour would I need? If I use 1 teaspoon of vanilla, how much flour would I need? Go to your original recipe. The original recipe says 2 teaspoons of vanilla to how much flour? 3 cups of flour. Now we want 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Again, we can't easily get from 2 to 3, but we can easily get from 2 to 1. What do I do to 2 to turn it into 1? A little bit different from before, because in this one, we're getting smaller. We're going to divide by 2. Okay, so how much flour would I need? What's half of 3? Well done if you're thinking 1.5 cups of flour. So if we're converting recipes using our prior knowledge, remember, we can either go from left to right if that's an obvious calculation, or we can go from the original to the new. Let's have a look at this question then. Can I easily do 200 divided by something to make 60? Does 60 go into 200 if I counted in 60s? 60, 120, 180? No. So for this question, I'm going to have to use the other method where I'm going from 200 and working out this relationship. How do I get from 200 to 100? I need to halve it. Half of 60 is 30. Okay, in your head, work out now, how do you get from 200 to 50? What do you need to divide by? How many 50s and 200? Now do the same to this side. What's this number going to be? So 200 divided by 4 is equal to 50. So now I need to do 60 divided by 4, which is going to be 15 grams. Well done. Okay, now let's look at the next one then. If I've got 200 and I need to get to 20, what am I dividing by? Do the same to the other side. What will this value be? 200 divided by 10. Therefore, I do 60 divided by 10, which is 6 grams. Okay, from 200 to 40, I divide by 5. Good. 60 divided by 5 is 12 grams. Can I ask you, please, to have a go at the next one, which is 2 grams. How do you get, and I'll get rid of all of these annotations just so it's just this one you're looking at. How do I get from 200 to 2 grams? What do you need to divide by, and how much flour would that be? Well done if you're saying divide by 100. So now I just need to do 60 divided by 100, which will be 0.6. We're not going to do the last examples because I think I might have made them a little bit too tricky. Okay. The next thing that you can do then is you can look at how many people the recipe serves, and then you need to change all of the ingredients. So remember at the beginning, we were seeing about our recipes, and we saw that the recipe might serve a certain number of people. This recipe serves only 2 people. So if I wanted to cook enough food for 4 people, what do I need to do to all of these ingredients? At the moment, I've only got enough food for 2, but I need enough food for 4. How many batches will I need to cook? I'll need to cook twice as much, so what I'll do to my ingredients is I'll double all of them. So we're just going to think now then, if my recipe is for 12 people, but I only want to cook enough food for 6 people, I've only got 6 people coming, what shall I do to my ingredients? Am I going to times or divide? And by what? How do I get from 12 to 6? Well done if you're saying divide by 2. I want you to quickly go through now and on your piece of paper, write down what you're going to do for each 3 of these. How do I get from 4 to 12? Remember, you start with what your recipe is actually for and then what you want. How do I get from 6 to 18 and from 10 to 5? Pause the video now and solve those ones, 1, 2 and 3. So if my recipe serves 4 people and I need enough for 12 people, I'd times by 3. If my recipe is for 6 and I need enough for 18, I'll also times by 3. And if my recipe serves 10 people, but I've only got 5 people, I'd divide by 2. Okay, in this one, we're just working backwards. Something divided by 4 is equal to 3, that would be 12. And then my recipe serves 6 people. I've timesed it by 3, so I've got enough food for 18 people. Let's have a look at what that would look like then in terms of a question. This is the ingredients you need to make 12 chocolate brownies. How much of each ingredient would be needed for 4 chocolate brownies? My key fact is how do I get from 12 to 4? What do I need to do to get from 12 to 4? I've got enough food for 12, but I only need 4. Times or divide? Divide by what? 3. So I want a third of the food, basically. So now what I need to do is find 1/3 of all of those ingredients. I divide every single ingredient by 3. 300 divided by 3 is equal to 100 grams of flour. So I'd need 100 grams of flour. Now I move on to the dark chocolate. What's 120 divided by 3? Well done if you think it's 40 grams of dark chocolate, and you have to write it all out like this. You write your new recipe. You've got some questions like this later, so you write them out like this in a bullet pointed list. 240 divided by 3. If 24 divided by 3 is 8, 240 divided by 3 is 80 grams of sugar. 3 eggs divided by 3 will be 1 large egg. And finally, 60 millilitres of milk, don't forget your units of measurement, divide that by 3 and you have 20 millilitres of milk. So basically, all you need to do is work out how you get from what you know to what you want. This is the only thing really that you need to calculate, is the fact that you're dividing by 3. Because once you've worked that out, that's all you need to do, divide by 3. Let's have a look at this question then. My recipe makes enough for 6 chocolate brownies, but I need 18 chocolate brownies. How do I get from the recipe, which is 6, to what I want, which is 18? Times or divide? Times by 3. What I want you to do on your piece of paper, this is going to be your independent question 4. You're going to write out this new recipe for me, please. So times all of these ingredients by 3, sorry. So there are 5 different ingredients, times them all by 3, and don't forget your unit of measurement. Pause the video now and have a go at this question. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers then. Make sure you've had a go at this question with timesing everything by 3. 300 times by 3 is 900, and that's grams of flour. If you didn't write grams of flour, it's wrong. 120 times by 3 will be 360, and that's grams of dark chocolate. Okay, 240 times by 3, a little bit trickier now. I would probably do 200 times by 3, which is 600, and 40 times by 3, which is 120. Add that together and you've got 720 grams of sugar. 3 large eggs times by 3, 9 large eggs. And finally, 60 millilitres of milk, times that by 3, and that would be 180 millilitres of milk. Well done if you got all of those correct. Well done if you remembered your units of measurement and you wrote down what the ingredient was. Okay, you might also have a reasoning problem like this. So I'm going to read through it and then I'm going to show you what your independent work is. Alfie wants to make 36 cakes. He has looked in his cupboard and he only has a bag of flour that is half full. It originally had 1 kilogram of flour in. Does Alfie have enough flour to make 36 cakes? Explain. Step 1, what is this recipe for? How many people? 12. Okay, so what I need to do is find out how much flour he would need to make enough for 36. How do I get from 12 to 36? What do I need to times by? Well done if you're thinking 3. So 200 grams of flour times 3 is 600 grams. He needs 600 grams of flour. Okay. He has a bag of flour. It originally had 1 kilogram in, but it's half full. Well, now I'm going to need to convert. 1 kilogram is how many grams? 1,000. Now I'm going to divide that by 2 to find half of it, to find that I've actually only got 500 grams of flour. Can Alfie make enough cakes for 36 people? No, he only has 500 grams of flour, and to make 36 cakes, he needs 600 grams of flour. So that's how you would solve a reasoning problem like that one. I'm now going to go through what your independent work is. You have 2 bands today, so you can choose what you would like to do. If you're finding this a bit tricky, stick on band 2, whereas if you're feeling confident, you should do band 3. You can do this on your piece of paper, or if you print out the task sheet, you can do it on the task sheet. But remember, I'm perfectly happy for it to be done just on your piece of paper from the sheet. If you're doing it like this, I would recommend numbering them just like so. This would be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If in my cake I need 100 grams of butter and 200 grams of flour, what if I only need 50 grams of butter? How much flour would I need? How do I get from 100 to 200, or how do I get from 100 to 50? Work out how you're going to solve that. Remember, there's 2 ways. Or you're doing 100 grams of butter, 400 grams of flour, and you're solving this one here. This one, remember, you're going backwards. Pause the video and have a go at these questions, please. And now I'm going to show you your next group of questions. Again, you can either choose band 2 or band 3. But for both of them, there are 2 questions. This is your recipe. Your recipe has 5 ingredients. This one serves 10 and this serves 6. You need to write out the ingredients as if you had this number of people. So number 1, if you had 5 people, how much of each ingredient would you need? You'd need your bullet points for the different ingredients that are needed to make flapjacks. Or if you're doing this one, how much of each ingredient would you need for 2 people's worth of tomato soup? So remember, you're looking for that relationship between how many people it serves and how many people you have. 2 questions for both of them. Each one has 5 ingredients, so that's 10 steps you're writing out. Pause the video now and have a go at those questions. Remember, choose either flapjack or soup. You don't have to do both. And then finally, you're going to have a go. Sorry, don't know why that's there. You're going to have a go at one of these reasoning problems here. I just showed you how to do these reasoning problems. They're very, very similar. And in fact, I apologise, you've actually already done this one, so you can't do this one. Have a go at this reasoning problem here. Okay, have a go at that reasoning problem there. Pause the video and try that question, and then make sure you come back to mark all of your work, because I'm going to go through the answers now. Okay, here are the answers for the cake ingredients. So I think probably the easiest way was to realise you just needed to times by 2, and then you're just timesing all of these amounts by 2. And here you're timesing by 4. So just times everything here by 4. Here you're dividing by 4. So just dividing all of these values by 4. Make sure you mark your work carefully. For the next group of questions, this is the band 2 one for the flapjacks. To get from 10 to 5, you need to half it. So all of these amounts needed to be halved. And then to get from 10 to 20, you're doubling it. So everything has been doubled for the second set of answers. Mark each ingredient as you go like that. Okay, for band 3, here are your answers. To get from 6 to 2 people, you had to divide everything by 3. And to get from 6 to 12 people, you had to times everything by 2. So all of your ingredients should have been times by 2. Fantastic work. Please don't forget to upload your work onto Seesaw. Well done everyone for working so hard this term. Really, really impressed. Keep up the excellent work after half term and make sure you have a wonderful holiday because you've all worked so hard and you definitely deserve it.